Oh my goodness. Hopefully the third time's a charm, guys. The devil's after me today. He doesn't want me to do this, I guess, but I'm pretty persistent. So let's start this over. Hopefully I don't have any technical difficulties. The first time my battery went dead. The second time I lost Wi-Fi reception. So we're going to give this another shot here today. But welcome to Coffee with Coach. Today is Monday, April the 30th, and it's hard to believe that April is over, one of my favorite months of the year, the beginning of turkey season and high school, college baseball in full swing. And we mark off April, move to May, and that means that we are getting closer to graduation, and that means that we are getting closer to the summer. So I'm all for it. But, you know, on Mondays, I always get worried because the kids at my school, you guys aren't getting enough sleep at all. I mean, there's no doubt that one of the most important things for a teenager, you're supposed to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep a day. And it's pretty obvious when you guys come rolling in here in a few minutes that that's not happening. And, you tell yourselves a lie or your parents a lie. And, oh, Mom, my cell phone is my alarm clock. And you take your cell phone into your room and then you start Snapchatting and then you start texting and then you start tweeting, and next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you haven't even thought about going to sleep. So if I could give you a piece of advice, when you go to bed, go to sleep. Or the other thing, like my boys, this game, Fortnite, is taking over the country, and my boys play that game so much that, it's oftentimes they simply don't get enough sleep, and your body doesn't have a chance to recover. And you really stack the deck against you. You don't have an opportunity to be the best you possible if you don't have enough sleep. So I would encourage you on Sunday nights, one of the things that I do is I try to get in bed awful early, and I try to get as much sleep as I can just to give myself a chance to head it into the week. But one of the things I want to talk to you about today is my parents live in Memphis, Tennessee. And I don't get to see my parents enough. That's obvious. I only get to see them maybe in the summer or at Christmas. And so my wife Amy and I normally load up the boys and the dogs and we take off, and it's about 9 hours from here to Memphis. But when we do get to Memphis, I get to catch up with my family. My sister lives in the same neighborhood, and we get to catch up with all of our friends. And certainly it's amazing. My college baseball coach always said time is the most consistent thing you'll ever meet. And I realize that every time I go to Memphis. But one of the cool things that we do is, what's up, Yurdiel? One of the cool things we do is that when we go to see my parents, they actually live in a small town called Middleton, Tennessee, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes out from Memphis. And we try to make a day trip and go downtown. And man, Memphis is cool. You got Bill Street, you got Elvis Presley, you got Jerry the King Lawler. You've got all the different types of attractions. We go to the Bass Pro Shop that's in the Pyramid. We go across the bridge into Arkansas, and of course we have to stop by Rendezvous and get some of the greatest ribs you'll ever eat. But this year we did something pretty cool. We went to the Civil Rights Museum, and the Civil Rights Museum is located at the Lorraine Motel. And of course, the Lorraine Motel was the site on April the 4th of 1968, where one of the most influential men in the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr., had come to Memphis, and he had come to support the sanitation workers. Actually had started a strike, and the strike was because they had terrible working conditions and extremely low pay. And through nonviolent protest, Martin Luther King went to support those sanitation workers. But on April the 4th, he was shot by James Earl Ray from a little flop house across the street. And when you go to, what's up, Bert? When you go to the hotel and you go to the museum, we spent at least 5 hours in the museum. And it is just fascinating. It takes you through, from start to finish, the beginning of slavery, the Montgomery bus boycotts, the Freedom Riders. It takes you through all of these things, and one of the neatest parts is at the end of the tour, Martin Luther King Jr. was shot on the balcony in front of room 306, and you can actually go through room 307 and they've got 308 on the left blocked off, and they've got 306 on the right blocked off or glassed in, and you can see those rooms as they were the day he was shot. And you can also look across the way and see the actual flop house, and you can actually go across the street into the flop house and actually stand in the exact spot where James Earl Ray was when he supposedly shot Dr. King. And I say supposedly because the bullet that they recovered from Martin Luther King did not match the rifle that they got recovered from James Earl Ray. And so there is a little controversy there, maybe a conspiracy theory. Dr. King had just spoke about being against the Vietnam War. And if you remember the night before, he actually has been in bed all day. He's been sick. There's the people go to a local church there in Memphis, and he's called by his people. He says, man, the church is packed. We need you to come down here. And that's when he gives one of his greatest speeches. I've been to the mountaintop. And he says, I may not get there with you. And so he almost predicts his own death. But unfortunately, the next day he is shot by James Earl Ray. And so I've kind of become fascinated with the life of Dr. King and all of his writings, and of course his magnificent speeches. I couldn't imagine standing on the steps of the Washington the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and I stood there and looked down, and it says, I have a dream, Martin Luther King Jr. Unbelievable stuff. But one of my favorite quotes from him really doesn't get as much of attention as his other work, but I want to challenge you today to be the best version of you possible. I know on my schedule today, I've got a couple things I'm really not looking forward to. I got to deal with a couple situations today at work that are going to be tough. But you know what? I'm going to try my best to be the best version of me possible. And I want to read to you one of the quotes that he is famous for. It says, it's called the Street Sweeper Speech. And it says, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all of the hosts in heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. And from that quote, it's obvious to me, he's telling us, number one, you should take pride in your work. No matter what your job is, no matter what you're doing, you should take pride in your work and always try to do your best. Imagine now, he's speaking of Michelangelo, Beethoven, and Shakespeare. Those three guys are on Mount Rushmore. And he's telling us, hey, no matter what your job is today, no matter what task you've got to tackle, no matter what lies ahead of you today, do your best and take pride in your work. I hope that you guys have a great Monday. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. I'm still learning. But we're going to continue this as long as I keep getting material and I feel like it's productive. So I love you guys. Love you all. Have a great Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow.